that music didn't get you going, our next panel will. So the next panel, as we earlier referred to, is being moderated by Ben Bookbinder. Ben just got promoted to VP of Sales for Canada Hivestack. He's a sharp future rock star as well in our industry. Let me welcome Ben and his panel, and please use the Q&A button down below for questions, and I'll be back after Ben's panel. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Barry. Thanks for the turnout. It has been absolutely incredible. The conversations have been fantastic. It kind of feels like Canadian, out-of-home ad tech Christmas this morning with all of the great work that's been going on. So congrats to everybody with those, amazing partnerships that are going on and getting all that work done during this time. So perhaps we'll let everyone on the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll hop right in.
Yeah, I'll start. So I'm Kevin McDonald, CEO of Kinetic.
Hi, everyone. I am Alessia Grosso. I'm a strategy director at Cossette Media.
Hi, everyone.
I believe that was Susan that we still have on the line. Susan, that was a fantastic conversation before. But so just hopping right in, these times have been crazy. Everything's been weighing on us during these times. So really kind of lightheartedly starting here. I think everyone would really love to learn of any of your just successes and bright spots over these last few months that you guys have all been having and witnessing.
Yeah, so I'll kick off. So from a Kinetic standpoint, we've actually used the downtime to work with our sister companies around the world. So Kinetic has just over 20 offices in 16 countries. And so we've really used this time to share best practices with the other offices on how best to approach and really capitalize on the digital expansion and out of home. But then also, as importantly, being able to leverage different mobile data sets, and the mobile data sets are different from country to country. So we've really learned a lot together, and the end goal is to come out as a much stronger organization worldwide. We've also been very fortunate. We've onboarded 13 new clients within the downtime, which has made us helped us to become the largest programmatic out-of-home buyer in Canada. So we're super excited. Obviously, a rough few months for everybody, but we're excited to come out of it much stronger than when we went in. So.
Hi, guys. I can go next. It's Susan Irving from Kruger. I think you just heard, for those of you that heard my fireside chat with Barry, obviously we've been focused, just given our products have been so high in demand, is just ensuring that obviously our customers and our colleagues and consumers are safe, and ensuring Canadians and Americans that there's no shortage in supply. And then on top of that, just spending a lot of time reconfiguring what our back half plans are going to look like. And then, really looking short term, long term, depending on COVID, mild, medium, and high, what are the different scenarios we need to think about as we plan for the long, middle, and the recovery of our business.
From a media perspective as well, it's been really incredible to see really an abundance of creativity and thought leadership from the industry at this time. And definitely an understatement to say that it's an exciting time to be a strategist, particularly within the media environment. We've really been focusing on two key areas to win for our clients. So the first is within more consumer-centric strategy. So now more than ever, it's important to understand the consumer both objectively, so how have their habits changed and where are they spending their time, but also emotionally, so what sentiments are guiding those changes and how do those differ between different audiences. And the second, as mentioned in some of the prior conversations, is really flexibility within communications and leading that digital transformation. So how are we baking flexibility into the planning? How are we buying for where consumers are right now, but then parallel path building out where they might be tomorrow in order to stay successful?
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to hear about all of you guys, of how you've all adapted and how you guys continue to win during these times. So it's really nice to hear. I really want to point this next question towards Alessia and Kevin, and understanding that through all of these, the wins that you guys just mentioned, your entire marketing mix has really been affected. Everything's really been shaken up. So how are you guys really dealing with this COVID situation that we're all dealing with today with your out-of-home approaches? What has really shifted specifically to out-of-home with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, when we're seeing huge shifts in consumer lifestyle, there's definitely a ripple effect that requires us to evolve that marketing mix, as you mentioned, in order to suit those changing consumer needs. So the first step for us is really in understanding what those changes are. The great thing is that there was and there continues to be a lot of data and new information around COVID consumer behaviors. But the challenge is when we're looking at heavily survey-based data, we're really relying on people's interpretations of their behavior versus their true behavior itself. So this is where we started thinking about, how can we maybe reverse engineer some of the technology we have available within programmatic buying to provide us with true consumer insights. And then we could use those to really power the channel strategy with that real-time behavioral data. So that's what led us to develop the COVID dashboard, of course, in partnership with Hivestack. And as always, kudos to you, Ben, for being such a fantastic yes man when it comes to some of those more elaborate ideas of mine. So what the dashboard allows us to see are the changes and patterns in traffic through mobile data. So that data is mapped against the Hivestack inventory network to calculate whether there's a lift or a decline in traffic for specific formats. So in the onset of COVID, for example, we witnessed a really, really sharp increase in grocery and a decrease in pedestrian traffic boards. So an important caveat as well with the dashboard is that it allows us to do this in a way that is privacy compliant. So all the data is anonymized and opted in. And again, it allows us to understand those changes in behavior. And once we understand those changes, we can then assess the fit for our clients and evolve our strategies in accordance with those changes. So every single client, every problem is different, requires us to slice and dice the data in different ways. And using the dashboard, we could identify what channels make sense from an investment perspective and a messaging perspective. And then we can continue to monitor once those strategies are in place. So how are those behaviors changing day over day, week over week? We use that data to determine when's the most effective time to greenlight new channels and new formats. And what's powerful about digital out of home, of course, it allows us to activate on that data in real time as well. So we can identify the opportunity and then quickly go to market.
Yeah, amazing. You were such a driving force behind that. It's been such an incredible tool for us to have internally. So we definitely thank you for driving us for that innovation as well, Alessia.
Yeah, and so for us on our side, obviously static still plays a really important role in the out-of-home space, but the nimbleness and the importance of being able to buy digitally and through our DSP, which we built in partnership with Hivestack, especially in these crazy times, was super important. We constantly had to be on top of the latest trends and deliver outcomes based on real-time data. We're able to, apply data to ensure we're driving efficiencies, and we utilize the dashboard to ensure we're serving the right audience in the right places as effectively as possible. And Susan and I will talk about this, but really for Kruger, we wanted to ensure that a crucial item at the time was talking empathetically, but to people, when they need it. And where they were based on the data. Susan, I would love to take credit. I would love to say that this digital campaign that we started to run pre-COVID was the reason why toilet paper sold out. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But we obviously never would have guessed going into this campaign. We launched that 3 weeks before COVID. And obviously we've since paused, as Susan mentioned. But, Kruger is Quebec's favorite brand and has a very defined key audience. We're able to utilize that data in order to target those key consumers with dynamic creative tailored to each audience group, and we serve it up through our Hivestack platform, and it's been phenomenal. So super happy.
Yeah, and Kevin, I just add to that too, right? Like, we were so excited about the campaign and unfortunately paused it on March 18th just because our products were not on the shelves. But the data that we got from the campaign was super exciting, right? Just in terms of, even with only 3 weeks of data, we really could understand what were the top creative messages, what resonated in product placement in terms of whether or not it was on out-of-home furniture or billboards or bus shelters, wherever the locations were, or in gyms. We could actually identify which ones were working in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Which means, unfortunately, we did have to pause it. But when we go back in October, we can really leverage the data to be even more strategic, if you will.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kevin, I think that you guys aren't taking enough credit. I think it was solely you guys that drove those on sale.
We created the toilet paper issue.
Exactly. Yeah, you can blame Kinetic Canada for that. But I mean, you guys all touched base on it, right? It's about adapting and it's about evolving. And as Susan mentioned, taking advantage of the data and the capabilities, that Alessia and her team drove, and having what we have on hand to really, be nimble and agile, as everyone mentioned. But I'd really like to understand from Susan and Alessia, with you guys being so integral to the overall strategy at your respective brands and agencies, outside of understanding consumer traffic behaviors from the dashboard that we have, was there any other changes that we needed to make in order to adapt, maybe in the creative or your audience-based approaches that you guys are setting forth?
Yeah, so great question. And I'm sure a lot of people probably haven't seen the campaign that we're talking about. So why don't I just give a little bit of context so they can understand. So as Kevin said, Cashmere is Quebec's, well, it's the #1 brand in Canada, but it's also the #1 brand in Quebec. And in Quebec, it's all about the preferred. And we were able to go even regionally in terms of by city, right? So instead of saying Quebec's #1 bathroom tissue, in Montreal, we were able to say Montrealers' favorite bathroom tissue. And if you looked at the campaign, based on the traffic, whether or not we were in gyms, on the way to a grocery store, that preferred message, we actually tailored the message based on the location of the ad. Montreal was, Montreal's #1 brand, but then, the fitness clubs, it was a tailored message of the preferred to fitness enthusiasts, right? On the way to grocery stores or to restaurants, it was the preferred for, the gourmand, which is like the foodies. So we were able to take a tailored message as we analyzed the traffic and the hot points that Kevin was able to do with the tool. Our target, as I said earlier, was we wanted to go after Quebec moms because they're the primary grocery shoppers. We also wanted to make sure that we looked at our top retail partners, being Costco, Metro, Jean Coutu, Walmart, IGA, Uniprix, and Family, like making sure that we had billboards and digital out of home that was on the path to purchase to retailers. And then the third one was kind of understanding our competitive set. So based on the model, we were able to take the right creative and understand kind of the path to purchase with all the tools that Kevin was able to give us.
I think to your point as well, Ben, there's been a lot that we've had to sort of change and adopt throughout this period. Canadians at this time are grappling with a large amount of financial, emotional, mental challenges. And as a result, it's really crucial for brands to change and to adapt. Otherwise, you run the risk of not being relevant or not being authentic with your consumer base. And what's been really interesting is consumers are actually finding it reassuring to hear from brands during this time. So using that purposeful storytelling throughout that marketing funnel provides a really necessary and a really effective connection point back to the consumers. But on that point, I think it really needs to be personal, relevant, and authentic. If it doesn't tie back into that larger campaign or to the brand's core values, and consumers are really starting to see through that. And when we look at that from a strategy perspective, I mean, strategy is really equal parts data fluency and creativity. So it's understanding the behaviors like traffic, for example, but that just being the first layer, we really need to interpret the data and apply those insights to the mediums and the messages that we're putting into market. And this is true for paid channels like out of home, and it's also true for the rest of the paid, earned, owned channel mix. So for example, taking an evolving consumer behavior like gaming and making that relevant and actionable for clients that haven't played in that space before. So it really comes down to understanding those habits and then adapting them for our client-specific objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think that hammock behind you is the perfect place to relax after all of the stress that has been going on. No, but
perfect place to ideate, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's true. It's right. We're, as we mentioned, we're taking the data, we're applying it to the strategy. We're thinking about the audiences and the creative and, the locations and the triggers that we can utilize in this programmatic space. And it's been incredible to see how far, the industry has really, truly become programmatic in the last, year and a half that I've been in it. And I'm sure, there were some trailblazers before that were super integral for that. So it's incredible to see. But Kevin and Alessia, I know you guys are, super integral in the out of home process at your agencies. And we've been talking about this world world, this word programmatic and how it's kind of really taken over and, allowed us to be nimble and agile, as we're all mentioning. But I would love to understand, the real effects of, programmatic capabilities on your day-to-day.
And Ben, hi, that's Barry. We're going to try to wrap this up in just a minute or two. So if you don't mind, if we could ask each one to kind of answer your good question. Ben, you're doing a great job, by the way. Just if we can try to wrap it up in a couple of minutes, be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go quick. So yeah, measurement is the biggest impact for us at Kinetic. Being able to measure and have the attribution on every impression that we deliver against to a real world business outcome is super key for us. Working with auto brands and major retailers, we're measuring and driving foot traffic into physical locations and bucketing out those audiences versus the non-converters is really working. We're also working with major QSRs and alcohol brands and tech companies, and we're really working on the attribution, real world brand lift through customer brand lift studies. Also, it was great for us to also be able to buy different markets out of our Canadian headquarters. We had a couple massive plans done for Tokyo for the Olympics, again through Hivestack and their partnership with Liveboard. So we're looking forward to getting those rolling whenever the Olympics gets rolling again. So yeah, that's it from us.
Yeah, I think I'd echo, of course, Kevin's sentiments as well, that it's enabled us to evolve the way that we measure. But from a strategy perspective, it's also really opened the door to more effective ways of flexing creative muscles. So obviously having more data to play with translates into more opportunities for customization. But it does mean that certain levels of personalization become more baseline. So if we can easily adapt messages to something like time of day, for example, how do we take that to the next level and what does that next phase of innovation look like? And that's something that we think about on the media strategy side, is how do we sort of continue to iterate on that creative ability.
Awesome. It's so good to hear. And I'm sorry to everybody, we had some really controversial questions coming up next that we're just going to have to miss out on. But it sounds like it's time for the Q&A. So Barry, please take it away. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in. It's been a great event so far.
Hey, Ben, great job, Ben. Thank you, Susan, Alessia, and Kevin. What a great panel, and the nimbleness and the data-driven opportunities for digital out of home are incredible. I'll read really quick because I'm going to throw for one quick. Ben, Philippe Ramirez has asked us, what percentage of out of home buys do you think will be programmatic over the next 2 years in Canada? You want to take a shot at that?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy, because I tell Kevin it should be 100%, 150%. No, I think it really depends on, we have great penetration, obviously, with the Pattison announcement that just happened today. I think we're limited to scale sometimes, in some of the smaller secondary markets. As Kevin mentioned, that static piece is still going to be incredibly important. And then also for some of those bigger integrations, when you want to do something really creative, those direct relationships are so important, as Alessia and Susan mentioned, at the creative level as well. But I think if you're looking to target audiences, measure against it, and really truly be, omni-channel in your attribution measurement, programmatic is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that. Great work, everybody. Susan, thank you for appearing twice. We appreciate it. Alessia, thank you. Kevin, love the new haircut, Kevin. You look terrific. Only a good-looking guy can cut his hair all off. And Ben, you're going to be my sidekick for moderating these things. You've done a great job. So thank you. And I would say, Kevin, you mentioned Liveboard in Japan. Ichiro, Janae, and Yoko Ono are with us today on the webinar. So
oh, awesome. Okay. Well, lots of business coming your way. The Olympics happen. So
excellent. All right, guys. Thank you all so much.